So uh, I'm Matt Kirschling with Gold Star Mortgage.
I'm Matt Kemps, co-founder of Lone Wolf Realty Group at Spyglass Realty, and this is
I'm Megan Miller. I'm also an agent on Lone Wolf Realty Group at Spyglass Realty.
two Matts, one market.
Look at that. So one of the things that Matt was always trying to do is like right now we'd have it be like bum 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 do,
Which you still can do.
but we don't do that because I was watching a podcast just the other day. I won't say any names, but they've consulted me on some of the information and what I do. And every time I watch it, they have that little thing on there, and I just want to, as quickly as I can, do the like 15-second like boof boof boof, like
Fast forward.
yeah, you know, like do you listen to any podcasts?
Not religiously.
No,
No.
you don't have anyone you kind of follow.
I used to, but not anymore.
Did they have like an intro to their podcast that you would always just like quickly go through because you've heard it too many times? See, that's how I feel about it.
I
Those
hear
like
you.
Dear Media ones have like the same intro.
Yeah. And I always listen to like different types of news. I try to listen to like news from like the right and the left, and like the one is the Journal. And the guy always drives me crazy because he'll always have these commercials, right? Which I get it. You got to have your commercials. You do your thing. But then there's this long outro of music, and then he goes, "We'll be right back." Just like that. It's like the most annoying thing ever. It's like,
We'll be right back.
yeah, like and then it's like save money on dog food, like right after, you know. So anyway,
And thanks to our premium sponsors for the day, hey, we'll be right back.
yeah, I'm telling you, listen to the Journal. It's the Wall Street Journal podcast on Spotify, and when he does it, you're gonna laugh because that's what he does. So big day today in real estate. Trying to keep it real estate centric. Does anyone want to? You know, I'm not the realtor in the room. Does anyone want to make an announcement of what today is?
You want me to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, so today is August 13th, which means for the awesome board of realtors, we are no longer allowed to have buyer agent compensation listed on the MLS. We are allowed to have seller concessions. And then also, with that being said, buyers are required to have representation stating the compensation for the agent prior to entering any properties they didn't want to go view that are listed on the MLS.
What are we gonna do?
Shit ourselves and freak out.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense.
Okay, that does not make sense.
I mean, that's kind of where I'm at, but
Yeah, why is that?
maybe not so much that. I'm just interested to see what it's going to be like moving forward. Having that conversation about, I can't open this door for you until you sign this piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I just met you 5 minutes ago, and you have to, trust me and know that I'm going to do the best job on your behalf. So we have to build that rapport much quicker than we've done in the past. And also just try to protect ourselves because that wasn't something that we necessarily had to worry about as buyers agents in the past.
That's a good take. I haven't really heard that one as far as like the knowing someone for 5 minutes, because I'm thinking like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. And then it makes me wonder, is that going to maybe help you as far as, not being the real estate agent that just met somebody 5 minutes ago, but is that going to help the industry because now maybe people are going to start interviewing agents before they just start like calling stuff online?
Yes and no. So I don't know the exact stat on how many Zillow showings are sent out per day,
Uh-huh.
but what she's referring to is a Zillow showing.
Yeah. Or any
Um,
lead, realtor.com,
yeah.
homes.com.
So with specifically Zillow, because I'm going to pivot off that realtor.com stuff. With Zillow, they have real-time tours,
Mhm.
and they they request an exact time they want to go look at a property. So when they say, hey, Megan, I want to go see this property today at 3:30. We're starting this film at like 1 o'clock. So she's like, sounds good. Get to go see you. I get to really no time to prepare. We don't have to have any buyer consultation. And I'm going to have to do basically what I would call a driveway consultation, where I'm going to show you, here's our IBS, which is called Information About Brokerage Services. Here's our representation agreement. Since we just met, we haven't really built rapport yet. And you're like, okay, this woman's just about to open the door for me, and I know nothing about her. We're going to try to send her that consumer reviews before we even see them ahead of time. So like, here's our website. Here's some of our reviews. Here's some of our past sales. We're going to have a conversation when we get to the house and go over all the different items we just mentioned. So with that being said, there's going to be 2/3 different scenarios. Number one is going to be a representation on just that property itself. Option 2 is going to be representation for them entirely across the board. And we set that for a certain amount of time. So it could be just for today. It could be for a week because we just met each other. If they want to say, hey, you know what? I already like you how you are. Let's do it for 6 months. Let's do it for a year. You're like, love you too. Let's do it. Or you get unrepresented scenario where you're purely just open the door. There might be a flat fee you work for. You might be doing it for free. I really hope you don't. And you open the door, but you have a signed documentation stating that you are this buyer is unrepresented, and it's what's the word I want to use? It's not an exclusive agreement with that agent individually. They're signed a document stating that they can work with any agent they want. But that is option 3. I can tell you we are not going to be using that option, but that is an option that NAR has provided and that Austin Board of Realtors Connect has provided as a form.
I got a question for Megan. So, Megan, have you ever had a situation on a lead where an individual was like, I'd like to see this property. I want to see it in like an hour or two. And you're like, okay. And you drive out to the property and you get there and they're like really in a hurry to view it. They're like, I don't have a lot of time. And then they view the property. And then afterwards you kind of like follow up or try to, have a chat with them. And they're like, oh, I already have a real estate agent, but thanks for showing this to me. They're out of town, whatever. Has that ever happened to you?
Yes.
So now what I'm
Too
wondering,
often.
now what I'm wondering is maybe because I just don't think the public is going to catch on to this as quickly as anyone thinks. Is it possible now that the tables have turned? That
That's the
buyers are going to
positive.
drive all the way out to properties and then you're going to be like, hey, I need you to sign this agreement that states, some of the things you just talked about. And they're like, I'm not doing that. And then you're like, well, I'm sorry, I can't help you. And now buyers are going to literally be driving out to places only to just drive back with nothing to show for their.
They can technically say, we could be the nice guy and technically say, here's an unrepresentation scenario and have a backup plan and try to build the rapport. But then, because we've also driven all the way out there too.
Yeah, but you guys were already doing that.
My point.
Buyers were not.
I hear your point, and I'm 100% still not going to use I'm giving you scenarios. I'm not going to ever bring that form with me because
Right.
if you are going to view a house with me, you are still signed with me, whether it's for 1 hour, if it's for 1 day, if it's for 2 weeks, if it's for 7 years. We can work on the time frame. But if I'm going to be working with you and having a conversation with you about the property and negotiations and not represent the seller's best interest and actually representing we're working together and sign that form.
What if you don't get the form signed and then you show somebody anyway?
There's
We're
going to
gonna
be
do it anyway.
there can be penalties once if the listing agent wants to submit it or we can submit it. The answer is I don't think anyone knows. It's Wild West.
We're gonna do it anyway. I mean, that's the whole thing about this for me as an outsider, because I'm obviously not a real estate agent, is the thing that I'm wondering is like, who's policing all of this?
It has to be the Board of Realtors / NAR.
So the Board of Realty.
If your Board of Realtors is associated with NAR, that's the only one that really could police it unless you have neighborhood cop.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, who's gonna police this?
On the flip side, just don't do it, and it helps us. Why would the agent not do it?
Well, I'll explain why. I today just got a phone call from a client that I kind of lost connection with because they're an older couple that has basically decided that they're just going to purchase wherever the hell they want to. So the realtor that was, working with me basically let them go because now they're like trying to purchase like almost up to Waco and haven't been calling him back or anything like that. So I get a phone call today out of the blue and they're like, hey, it's, insert buyer name. They're like, we're under contract. I'm like, really? They're like, yep, we're under contract. We got a 5-day option period. We want to get everything going with our financing and so on and so forth. And I'm like, well, who did you use for your approval letter when you wrote your offer? And she's like, oh, that's the thing. The agent says that they need it, but they've accepted our offer and, we're going to need that approval letter to get everything going. So my point is like, we all know it's best practices to not be running around buyers without approval letters or anything like that, let alone writing offers and then agents accepting offers without approval letters.
No chance in a million years would I ever do that.
But you know what agents are doing? They're doing it anyway. So like, I'm just like, who's going to police this?
No one's policing the pre-approval letter. That's just stupidity.
I guess my kind of hope for the industry is that we will all start doing the right thing by getting these things signed. so that consumers start expecting it. And so
Like getting pre-approved before buying,
well, getting pre-approved,
because
getting
we're not there yet.
your loyalty agreement signed prior to. I had that conversation with a first-time consultation yesterday. I went over all of my docs. I let them know as of this date, this is what will be changing. So if you choose to not sign with me, I will not be able to show you or open any houses, and you'll have to have the same conversation with any other agent that you meet, either through Zillow, Realtor.com, or out in the wild. So, if you and I have a good rapport together, like, let's just go ahead and lock this down. And so my hope is that we'll all kind of do that as agents so that buyers will understand, like, I do need to do this and I do need to respect their time, because I'm sure Matt and I can tell you there have been so many times where we have driven out, like you said, people have, the whole family comes out of the minivan, they're running around you, go through the house, run through all the rooms, run back into the van. You didn't even say hi. So I think having to stop and have this conversation and really be diligent about it, I think is going to be my best practice moving forward, and really sticking to my guns and making sure I'm not the most assertive person, but making sure that I'm being protected as an agent for my compensation and for my time.
Well, and it could help legitimize your, your industry,
Mm-hmm.
which, based on some of the horror stories I've heard, might be, would be a good thing,
Very, very good thing.
right? Anything else that we have concerns on now that we're actually here? I look forward to seeing how all these age.
Honestly, I was on the MLS today. So many people have not done any of the listing agreement amendments and have just hit MLS. So where it says seller concessions,
It's like they're doing it anyway.
they're doing it. We'll be right back. Okay.
Who's your sponsor today?
What'd you say?
Who's your sponsor today?
Today our we're brought by Mighty Swell, the one I just chugged before this episode.
Yeah. How was it?
So good.
Purple. What was it called? Purple
I think
Swell.
it was Purple Magic. I don't know.
Purple Magic?
It was good.
Ina likes those, so I get those swell seltzers. You know who put us onto them? Shout out to Alex Ellis.
Actually, that's spot on.
I don't think he actually exists.
He does.
He does.
I've met him once. No, I've met him more than once, but it's been. I've only seen him once in like a year.
He doesn't even respond in the group chat.
Why would he? He's an enigma.
He honestly, we should just name the team after him. He really is the Lone Wolf.
But really, every time I'm on Instagram, like, Alex Ellis under contract, Alex Ellis closed. I'm like, where? Never seen him.
Yep, that's him.
He doesn't have time for any of this.
Just play golf, throw some hammers, and yeah.
There it is.
But honestly, when I went on MLS today, I haven't seen a single one yet that actually has seller concessions listed. It just says YN blank.
Interesting.
So yes, no, and then there's supposed to be a number. I haven't seen any that actually done. Like my listings have it, but no one's actually putting in the data right now. So I think we're gonna go through maybe a week or 2 weeks with no data. So everyone's gonna be like, "So am I getting paid?"
Right. I'm interested to see how that plays out for the people who don't, end up getting paid. And then I'm looking forward to the whistleblowers, right? The ones that for the people who are doing it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to seeing who's going to be like the hall monitor. Like, do you have a hall pass? Did you?
Do you have a signed buyer representation agreement before you enter my listing?
Right? Well, all it's going to take is for a couple of agents to get burned, and then they become the automatic hall monitors,
Yeah,
right?
and then they're just like F the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Especially with dual agency and stuff like that, because we have that up in Ohio. People get real pissed off about that. So, there's a real estate brokerage up in Ohio that's real notorious for doing kind of almost coming soons and stuff like that, and really trying to keep everything in house.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone that doesn't work for that brokerage is out to get them crazy.
Yeah.
So we see a lot of the self-policing at times.
What do you think about those jokes going around, like the memes going around saying, I'm going to have my listings in a 2 or a 3, or here's this picture of the yard.
I think it's creative. Eventually, they're all going to catch on, but no one can tell them not to list their pricing at $1,003,000. No one can do that. They're not going to say, you don't try to hide it. Don't that's where I want to price it at. That's where I feel its market value is at. What are they going to say? Well, no, you're suggesting compensation. No, doesn't say a single word about compensation. It literally just says a list price. Like if you can figure that shit out, like it says list price, but like if we don't have any like secret code, like sure we might, but like it's not clear and obvious unless you're dumb. But
I think it's great.
Yeah.
To be honest, I know I'm popping jokes over here and making fun of like people doing whatever they want and just going rogue, but I love the idea of salespeople, not just real estate agents, but salespeople, having those conversations, getting all of those kind of like tough questions or awkward moments out of the way because, you know, again, as like a real estate professional, but not a realtor myself, looking at like the jokes and the memes of like running a buyer around and then they go and close with their brother-in-law and like, you know, there's all of these like complaints all the time of buyers, you know, doing things that this could all be avoided. All of it can be avoided if people are just having honest conversations, explaining everything. And here's the other part. This is the part I really love the most is you're going to lose a lot of like pipe dream shit, right? So like every real estate agent's like, I've got all these buyers, I've got all of this. And I really feel like from a sales standpoint, mentally, if you're running like multiple buyers and maybe you've got like one deal under contract, you somehow can convince yourself that you're busy. But like there's a difference between being busy and being productive, right? So now when you have like, I'll just use a round number, you know, if you have 6 buyers and 3 of them are like, I'm not signing a buyer's representation agreement, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, and you're like, well, I can't work with you, and now you're really honed in on 3 of these buyers, it might not only help increase your contract to close ratio on your buyers, but it's going to force you to go out and generate new pieces of business because you're not looking at those other 3 maybes as like, well, maybe the guy I've shown condos for 2 years is going to finally buy one. Like, I don't know. Is that going to happen? So I think it's good.
You just hit like perfectly on the nail there. Like I have one we're under contract for a lease. They're probably 3 or 4 months into a lease. We're going to look at property tomorrow. And they're probably not buying for like 6-7 months, but we're going to start the planning phase. And then we got to buy a representation agreement for 1.5 years.
There you go. You think they're going to sign it?
They already did.
Oh, cool.
Already had the consultation.
How many people do you think are being or have been proactive to reach out to all of their potential buyers and explain this and try to get the contract signed? Or are they going to wait until the buyer wants
the
to see the
same
house?
exact number as the highest producing agents?
Right.
The top 1% controls 20%, or
Yeah.
top 3 to whatever the number is.
I know what you're
controls,
going to say.
Yeah.
Because, like, I would be looking at this as an opportunity to anyone that I've shown a home in the last 90 days. You know, I get it. You might have that buyer who's been, you know, you showed a home like 6 months ago and you're still following up, but they're not.
Or we're just not a fit and I don't want to work with them. I'm not going to reach out to them.
Yeah, but isn't that a good opportunity to get that final no so that you can kind of really move on?
No, personal choice. I don't want to work for them.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Got it.
No, I've noticed there's a few of those.
Why not slide like a 5% buy side commission over?
Dude,
would you work for them then?
Let's talk about that for a second, actually. Okay, so on our loyalty agreement, there's 3 different spots to put our commission scenarios. Okay, First one, I'm putting 6% because if I get a new build on what the new settlement states is we cannot be paid more than what their compensation states what's on the agreement. So let's just say we have new construction and they're providing a bonus, and I only have 3%.
Right.
I can't get paid the bonus. That goes direct to buyer or goes back to the seller. So we have 6%. If we're that's the highest we can get paid, but we're expecting 3%. And again, all commissions are negotiable. Nothing is fixed. But this is what I work for. 6% is for the bonus scenario. 3% is what I work for. If you're not willing to pay 3%, the least I will do is 2.5% if the seller is not providing any compensation. I would expect the buyer to bring up 2.5%.
But what about a buyer that's not a good fit who you kind of want to fire? Why not just like slide a buy side agreement at like 4 or 5%? Like, this is what I work for. And if they're like, okay, great, at least then you're getting.
Then that's a miserable 4 to 5%, and I have to deal with that shit. And is it really worth that?
All right. I mean, that was my question.
It's not worth it.
All right, it's not worth it. There you have it. What about you, Megan?
I got to get equity in the property.
I don't know. My last 2 closings were pretty terrible. The clients were, at least.
Would you have done it for an extra 2%?
I did get 5% on one of them because it was a new build, I don't know if it made up for it, but I was happy that there was a higher number attached to that particular buyer.
So let's talk about these higher percentages that builders and even some sellers are doing. How does that work from an ethical standpoint with real estate to where, I understand that sellers can pay whatever they want, but isn't it debatable that that encourages buy-side real estate agents to show certain properties that,
100%. That's why the whole lawsuit started.
and isn't that like, okay, so that's why the whole lawsuit started. So how are builders or even sellers now, because we are in a buyer's market, and if I'm a seller and I really need to sell,
Mhm.
like I could give additional concessions to a buyer,
You're actually going to a really good topic here.
but why give the additional concessions to the buyer when I could give additional concessions to a buyer's agent to get the buyer into the home and potentially get them excited about buying my place?
Because you can't do that anymore.
Okay. So
What you could do is you could do a 5% seller concession.
and I can announce that, and then give those concessions to the real estate agent if
The
the buyer allows it.
the buyer has to dictate that.
That's interesting.
So, but
So how are
on
builders
the
now?
flip side though, the buyer already has a set agreement with the buyer has a set agreement with the buyer's agent
Mhm.
for what his compensation is going to be.
So you could call ahead of time,
100%. You
right?
just can't be physically online.
Right. So I can basically look at so let's say I've got a buyer and he's like, here's the homes that I like. I like this zip code. I'm into, I want a 3-2, whatever. You
Yep.
guys know the game. So then I'm like, okay, I identify like 15 properties that are in that area.
Mhm.
I call all of them. I find out who's paying me the most money. And then I just happen to really like the one that is paying the highest commission.
Hey, guess what? You know what? Since our buyer agreement states 6% here, they're actually providing me a bonus in this one. You don't have to pay me any commission. I'm actually making a little bit more money. It's a win-win for both of us. I'm more than happy to provide the seller concessions that they've already asked for you to go towards your seller concessions, and we can make something work here. How does that sound to you?
Well, to me, it sounds all hypocritical.
I get it.
Based on everything that they're trying to avoid.
That's the whole point. That's why everyone's all pissed off about it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
The morale of it is great, but you didn't really hit the fine details of what the actual issue is. The only cool thing that happened out of it is, for her and I's sake, and kind of yours too, we're not showing houses without representation now.
I think that's great.
That's the best thing that could have
that
happened.
fixes. I mean, those are things, you and I have known each other for 5 years now. I've been pitching this for literally 5 years. And you want to talk about 80-20 or even 90-10. 90% of agents are like, why in the world would I ever get that sign?
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
So, okay, I have a question, fiduciary wise.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say Matt comes with a list of houses he wants to see. We call them all, find out the ones that are offering buyer agent compensation. His dream house, the one he loves the most, is not.
Okay.
And so we're saying, I can either show you this house and you can pay me, or I can try to build it into the offer. I just feel like that is going to have a lot of people turn around and be like, I thought you were working for me. You're supposed to be looking out for my best interest. You're supposed to be loyal to me above all others.
So flip the conversation on that standpoint.
Okay.
I'm 100% being your fiduciary by letting you know right now that they are not providing any compensation here. That if this is truly your dream home, that there is going to be compensation for my time to be able to help you through this property. I understand it's not the best case scenario for you, understanding that you're going to have to compensate me for my time in this scenario, but that's the whole portion of take it back. That's the whole portion that we're going to focus on, because do you like this house enough to pay 3% to me, or 2.5% or 2%, whatever the number, 4%, whatever the number is, to go view that property, fall in love with it, and potentially write an offer on it? Or is the focus here to not compensate a buyer's agent directly out of your pocket, even though it's being brought out of this purchase price anyways?
And unless it's a cash buyer and there's financing involved, I mean, you're able to build that in. I mean, your commissions, even if it's $10,000, I mean, $10,000 over the life of a 30-year loan, for example, it's about $6 a month in the payment. So, that's how we operate in the lending space. Is it's really all about cash out of pocket. I mean, you have an all-cash buyer, yeah, I mean, they're going to have to pay an extra 10,000. They're not financing that into the loan, and that's, you know, that's cash buyer. Maybe,
Mhm.
man, maybe cash buyers aren't as sought after now for buyers at reps. Thought about that, huh?
And that's such a small number if it's cash buyer
Right.
typically.
Right. Well, I just always, my
If we're
favorite.
talking about an investor buying cash 350, then we got a conversation.
Oh,
there.
my favorite thing in 2020 and 2021 was like you agents acted like my buyers all okay. Like all my buyers. I literally had agents. I have one that comes in here right now, and if he was here, I would call him out. And he works at Spyglass too, by the way. And he was telling me, oh yeah, most of my clients, they were just all cash. It's like, okay. First of all, I don't believe that. But second of all, like, why is that a badge of honor? Right? Like, why is that a badge of honor? But yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing. And if it's a client that is dealing with the lender, the home will appraise. You will be able to and just say, look, I'm gonna negotiate this into the purchase of the property, and it's not gonna cost you anything in addition out of pocket. Period. That's the answer. Well, how are you gonna do that? Like, just let me do my thing.
My job.
It's my job. Let me do my job.
It's me job.
Right? So, yes, I think that 1 out of 10 times you might run into an issue on something like that, but I don't think that's going to be the commonplace.
I think, like y'all said, it's the wild, wild west, and we'll kind of see how this all kind of plays out over the next.
I think 8 out of 10 sellers are still going to pay buy-side commissions. I think 2 out of 10 won't, and I think out of the 2 out of 10, you'll be able to negotiate 90% of those to be able to make sure the buyer nets what they want to net while you're also building in your own
Because
commissions.
technically they're going to be overpriced anyways.
Right. So it's like, you're gonna come in under ask anyway, and like you just need to make sure the numbers work to where you're able to get paid.
If it's a 300,000 list, you times it by 3%, whatever that number is. Is that 10,000?
What's that?
3% of 300,000, 10,000.
3% of 100?
300,000.
300 is it's $9,000. Yeah.
Okay, $9,000. Okay, sorry, I can't do math.
That's okay.
So we make an offer for either $9,000 less than 300,000, or you go 300,000 and ask for $9,000.
Yeah. It'll be fine. But yeah, today is the day, and I don't think much is going to change. But I will say this: you guys are like this. So again, I won't name any specific names, but I also hang out from time to time with other lenders and other mortgage companies, and I'm a little. I don't know what the word I want to use is. I don't know if it's like sad or just like it's just weird. I know lenders that think this is the funniest thing ever and are like, ha, 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 fuck those real estate agents. Like, I'm shocked that, like, there are lenders out there that think that this is so funny to watch y'all squirm because, well, let's face it, a lot of agents can sometimes be really douchey and treat lenders like shit. So they just think it's the funniest thing they've ever seen. Like, oh, it's going to be such a big deal for them. And I just kind of sit there and I'm like, man, y'all are haters, but like, I mean, I get it. I've had some agents be really shitty to me, and so I guess if you're what is it? If you're spiteful, you're kind of sitting on the sidelines laughing. But I'm shocked at the amount of like lenders I've seen that have of course they're not doing it in front of other real estate agents, but they're just like, I think this is fucking hilarious.
We'll suck it.
It's been really interesting just to read comments from the public in general to see kind of how they feel about us.
That's a great point.
And I did
a lot of hate.
I did not realize how much hate there was for real estate agents, especially, working at a place like Spyglass and working on Matt's team at Lone Wolf. Like, we are all very professional. We take this very seriously. We're very passionate about helping our clients and doing the right thing. It's one of our core values at Spyglass is always be doing the right thing. So it's hard to read comments like bashing you as a whole. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, again, we've said this on other podcasts. Y'all kind of did it to yourselves as a whole in respect to like, I think there's a lot of agents out there that get into real estate because they think that it's easy money, and then they make it seem very easy, whether it is or it isn't. They're writing an offer on a beach in Mexico and then jumping in their Ferrari, and they're standing next to a private jet or a boat or whatever, and it just. This is a blanketed statement, but I think it rubs a lot of people the wrong way. And so, yeah, I was a little surprised by the hate, to be quite honest. But then I guess I was kind of like, well, I guess I can kind of see how this is a thing. But because everybody, I feel like, knows a real estate agent.
So PSA, if you're an agent, don't post that shit.
Yeah, like, what are you doing? You know, like, do you ever see like heart surgeons being like jumping in their Ferrari, being like, just did a quadruple bypass, ding that motherfucker for $250,000. What? Because, like, I don't know about y'all, but quadruple bypasses aren't cheap, right? Like, those doctors be getting paid, but you don't see that, right? Like, keep it quiet.
Dr. Miami.
Right. Well, for plastic surgery, I mean, that's a
Yeah.
little different. You know, that's an electric, or what is it? What do they call that? You elect to do it?
What do you mean?
There's a
An
name for that.
elective surgery.
An elective surgery.
Oh.
Thank you. You know, no one needs plastic surgery. Like, you're going to live without it. Might not be as happy, but
Get you that BPL.
get that BBL.
Whatever they're called.
That's right. The Brazilian butt lift.
Oh, that's what it is. See? Now I
Everybody
learned
needs
something
one of
new.
those. You didn't know that?
Dude, I just hear him. We got a BBL here. And
Yeah.
I see it on Snapchat pop up. I'm like, the fuck is this shit? We'll be right back.
So what else, Megan? What else has been going on in your world? What are you seeing real estate wise? Like, I always feel like there's a common theme, right? So I'll give you an example. We won't talk about it because we talked about it in our last podcast, but my new common theme is the amount of people who are contacting real estate agents and myself and saying, I want to buy land and I want to build a custom built home to my liking. I have no money to do it. Can we do it as an FHA or a VA loan? Are you seeing any kind of common themes with buyers or sellers that just you're like, what, was there a TikTok or something about this?
I don't know. I mean, not necessarily the land one. I mean, I feel like I hear that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the dream, especially here in Central Texas.
It's the dream, like forever. It's always been.
But I don't think people realize how expensive it is and how, if you have vacant land with no water, no electricity, no sewer, no nothing, like the cost that it's going to take to make that livable.
Yeah, but I'll just get it from the bank.
Yeah. Okay, you go for it. I have clients that I've helped do that, and we found the land. It took us a year and a half. So I think if that's what you're interested in, you have to be diligent and patient and kind of wait for the right piece to come along that fits your budget, your timeline, everything like that. I think probably y'all talk about this all the time, as it being a buyer's market and a surplus inventory is just buyers have so many options right now. And it's kind of funny because over the weekend, I was being blown up by listing agents that I had showed their properties asking for feedback. What can we do? This, that, and the other. And it's kind of funny because it's a stark difference from, 21, 22, where you couldn't even get them on the phone. Like
Right.
they're kind of like you're saying, sorry, I've got cash offers, go kiss my ass,
Right.
basically. And so I had some clients in town last week that we were showing a bunch of downtown condos to, high rises.
Mm-hmm.
And that's primarily the listing agents that were reaching out to me. And it's especially for condos where it's like the same floor plan over and over and over again. They're like, what did you think? I'm like, there are so many options. Like, it's not just this, it's not just that. Like, my buyers made a full spreadsheet of everything that they wanted in their next property, and they rated every single home. So that's how they like narrowed it down. So buyers are just able to be incredibly pragmatic right now. And I guess that's mostly what I'm seeing is no one, people are still trying to time the market and wait for, that perfect interest rate to come and that perfect
What is the
house.
perfect interest rate?
I don't know.
Why don't
It doesn't exist.
Why don't you as real estate agents start asking that more often, right? Because everybody says rates are high, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the question that we ask is like, well, what is your strike point, right? Like if interest rates came to insert number, is that when you're like, oh my gosh, like we need to move? And if so, what is that number? Because I can tell you what I hear a lot, but I would be interested to hear what they would say to you. Because I feel like they're going to give me a way lower number than what they're going to give you. I feel like they're going to be
For
a little
us, they're going
honest.
to tell us the upper fours. For you, they're going to tell you the threes.
I think it's about right. Yeah, mid to upper fours is kind of what I get. I get people that say crazy stuff. I mean, mainly the ones that I don't really want that answer from someone who owns a home already with a low interest rate. I want to hear that answer from someone who doesn't own a home. Because you just have people that love numbers so much, like their house will be falling down before they get rid of their 2.5% interest rate. Like, you know, they'll have like two kids in each bedroom and just be bursting at the seams like, we're never moving. We have a 2.5% interest rate.
Yep.
Basically.
So here's another question I have for both of you. So back in like 2020 and 2021, listing agents used to be kind of mean and or abusive to buyer's agents, right? So you would show a buyer, write an offer, listing agents got like 10 offers on a property. What was kind of the mean comment that you would get when a listing agent would finally get on the phone or get back to you via email?
Go ahead.
I'm trying to think.
I can't answer this because I was majority on the listing side.
Oh.
What was like the mean thing that they would say? Like, oh, sorry, we already went with an all cash offer? Or was it like, like what was the thing where you're like, because the one thing that I remember is seeing things through memes and whatnot, that there were listing agents that would never even respond back to offers, right? They would accept the best and highest, and then no one else would even get a response.
That's just effed up.
Is that like the meanest thing you can do as a listing agent in that sort of market?
No, not the meanest.
Or do you like call people back and say like, yeah, we've got a high offer. You need to.
We had, just as a listing, you had so much leverage then.
Right. But here's where I'm getting. So I want to hear the mean take on the listing side.
Yeah.
And while you're thinking of that, I want to know what is the douchiest thing you can do now as a buyer's agent to a listing agent, because now you have all of the leverage.
I got a buyer who's fully pre-approved right now. We've already submitted 2 or 3 different offers. Both were actually already in multiples, even in this market. They're ready to compete. I just don't know if you're quite at the right. I just don't know if you're I can't talk. At the right list price for my client to proceed.
So you don't even like make them an offer. You
just be like, you just listed too high. You might be listed perfect. You just listed too high though, bro.
Got it.
I'm trying to think. Like back at that time, the meanest listing agent I had, we actually went under contract together, and she, from the get-go, the second I submitted the documents to her, she was upset. I guess because I submitted it all as like one PDF when I sent it over, and she was a little bit more old school and did not like that, and so she was upset that she had to print off each page and then rescan it to have separate documents.
See, I'm the opposite.
And
if you put it all together, if you separate it out, I don't get that.
I don't know. She was not having it, but she sent a text to me about me, calling me incompetent because of this, and that I shouldn't be an agent. And I wrote back, I don't think you meant to send this to me. And she was like, you're right, I didn't, but I would say it to your face. But
fucking realtors are ruthless, man. They really are.
But anyway, so this was a buy sell I did with Stefan.
Dude, that is rough.
This is a buy sell I did with Stefan. So we were contingent on her property selling. And so they ended up getting a backup offer, and she just kicked us out, was like, bye. And we're like, okay, cool. So we ended up going off, finding a different property. It was even better than this one. And they ended up falling out of contract with the second buyer, and she came back groveling, like, is there anything that we can do? And I was like, no. Even if I, like,
Go around hell, bitch.
And I saw that it expired. They didn't sell it. It got withdrawn or something.
Good.
And I was like.
I had a deal with an agent when it was a little more listing, where listing agents had a little more leverage. And I remember we wrote an offer on like a Thursday. The agent followed up on a Friday, didn't hear anything, followed up on Monday, and the response was, he's like, hey, can we just get some sort of answer? He's like, we would be quicker to answer if you wrote a full price offer. So stuff like that, I'm trying to think of like, what is the reverse of that on the buy side? And I think you kind of nailed it. Like, hey, you saw this property. I've been trying to reach out to you for the last 2 days. It's like, yeah, you would have gotten a faster response back from us if your property was listed a little more like,
If you had a better list price.
if you had a better list price. Oh man,
Or
good
if you,
times.
I got one with a little bit more seller concessions for me as a buyer's agent.
If you, yeah, do you think that's going to be the next thing? I mean, if it continues to be a buy side where like you've got listing agents that are going to be, or excuse me, sellers that might not offer a buy side commission.
Dude, totally.
And I could totally see agents being like, "Oh, hey, I saw you viewed this property. What are your thoughts?" But like, "Oh, we'd be quicker to respond if your seller was providing, buy side
more seller
commission."
concessions that I could use towards my buyer commission.
Right?
That is actually funny.
It's going to be interesting. But
I don't want to leave that as negative talk.
No.
Most agents are not like that, and that's very individual.
These are the clips that seem to do the best,
Yeah,
though,
I
which
know.
is really
but
interesting.
There's
Like,
there's individuals like that, but most of us aren't like that.
We're saying we're so honest and we have integrity, and then we're talking shit the whole time about agents being crappy.
Well, here's what I'm kind of excited about, and I want to be wrong about this because it hurts me, but I think it helps in the long run. I don't think anything crazy is going to happen with interest rates, honestly, even until like 2025. And so what that means is that it's going to continue to be somewhat of like a buyer's market.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this whole NAR lawsuit, just to bring it full circle, is heavily weighted in a market where listing agents are, they have all of the control. I mean, I think that this lawsuit would have been fought a little harder if listing agents didn't have such an attitude over the last few years. That's why I brought all of this up, whether you want to call it negativity or not, because I remember doing presentations with buyer's representation agreements to buyer's agents because they're really the ones that refer the majority of the business to me. I can remember real estate agents straight facing me being like, I don't even want to deal with buyers, like being jerks about it, right? Like, I am strictly a listing agent. I am not dealing with buyers. I don't have time for that. I list homes. And like, when you were listing homes in 2020 and 2021, like, you're not doing shit.
Right.
You mean to tell me you really just want to like sit there and dictate what the highest and best is? That's what you're telling me. Because like,
you want to work an Excel spreadsheet.
yeah,
Cool.
You want to be an asshole to buyer's agents. You want to walk around with your chest puffed out. You want to get paid, and you don't really want to do much. Like, got it. And I remember when we were doing our training with James McDonald with Craig Proctor, I'll never forget. It was like 2021, and he stood up in front of 3,000 agents and said, all of you out here who are like telling me that, oh, I just want to deal with listings, he goes, you wait. It will turn. And when it does, you're going to be making a phone call every single Monday saying, we need to talk about a price reduction. You tell me how you're going to handle that phone call. And like the room just shut up. And I was like, damn.
Good for you.
We'll be right back.
Yeah, I totally agree with that because, I mean,
well, here we are.
No offense to like listing agents, but I started my career in 21 as a buyer's agent, and we were running all over town. So I get it and I don't, but it is frustrating that it's like now the buyer's agent commission is essentially kind of what's on the line.
Well, it's a lag in time, though, is my point. So I think that what's good is that as long as it remains a buyer's market, it is going to almost force the industry as a whole to go, fuck, maybe we needed to be a little more like, what's the word? Like understanding and appreciative of what buyers agents really do. Because now here I'm sitting here with 10 listings that, 2 years ago, I would have been a king if I had 10 listings. I wouldn't have even been able to hang on to them. They would have sold in 2 months. And now I've got 10 listings. I haven't made any money because I've got all of these listings. I got clients calling me every single day asking me what the hell my problem is. Like, why can't I sell their house? And looking at me like I'm incompetent as a listing agent, right? When 2-3 years ago, they were beating their chests like they were God's gift to real estate. And I think if it continues on the buy side, it's going to force the entire industry to give appreciation, credit, whatever you want, to buyer's agents so that if and when it does flip, and I think it will, but it'll happen slowly, y'all can play nice in the sandbox over commissions.
Retweet.
Does that sound positive?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So
I like your spin on it from someone who's like in the industry but not directly an agent.
well, I get to see you guys argue with each other, and that's why shameless shout out to the barbecue and mingle every single Friday. We want to get agents together, get them meeting each other. Because I come from a time before COVID when agents literally like used to do way more like meet and greets with other agents with the idea of not only sharing ideas, but the fact that if you're going to be in this business long enough, you will sit on the other side of the table with other agents. And if you know who that agent is, that transaction is going to be way better.
That's going to come back, by the way.
It has to. I've been pushing it for 5 years.
There's going to be so many scenarios where we get these, like, with the seller concession stuff, or if you don't know the negotiation stuff that's going on, you're going to worry working with a tight-knit group of agents that say, hey, they're paying this on these properties. You know what? I could probably sling you this with an offer that gets to here. And there's going to be a lot more. Again,
You mean it's not what you know sometimes, it's who you know?
100%.
I think it'll be more like collaborative.
Way more. It's going to be like commercial real estate, where we have like all of these off-market or coming soon listings. We talk about them with a group of agents. Like our team, there's going to be, I guarantee you, there's going to be so many more intermediary deals that we do. Like a ton.
Well, come around on Fridays. I'll feed y'all, and you guys can talk about how to take over the world one real estate transaction at a time.
That Tennessee rub is so good.
You're the only other one than me that like really likes it. Everyone's like, yeah, it's okay. There's people that don't even like, they won't even touch it.
Dude, it's so good.
I think it's great. I like the it's a like
Vinegary.
a vinegary
Yeah.
barbecue sauce and stuff.
I tried that on Friday. I really
Everybody
liked
likes
it.
the like sweet and the like tangy and the spicy, but I like the like kind of runnier vinegary, and it is spicy.
No, I liked that one. I tried it.
Well, then you're in the club.
You know,
Welcome.
the best part is when you put that on the coleslaw.
Really? Now,
Oh,
see, I don't
fire.
do that. Yeah, Ina's got that coleslaw that everybody loves, and I swear the secret is you just have to get a fresh head of cabbage. You can't get the like pre-shredded bagged stuff. You can't get like pre-made because it's been sitting too long. You need a fresh head of cabbage, and then she just hand chops that like the
Oh, yeah.
like the Russian, like the like she's in the gulags, man.
Well, I've never even tried her
Oh, it's so
coleslaw
good.
because I don't normally like it, but now I'll have to give it a try.
You got to go. It's real fresh. It's good. It's more of it's not real so I feel like some coleslaws are so mayonnaise-y, they're just
Yeah.
like
Ours is
real-
more almost like salad based.
Okay.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, I feel like you have to get the texture ratios right.
Agreed. And then the crazier part is that the longer it sits, the more the like coleslaw starts to kind of like break down, and then it can get mushy. So you've got to eat it in the first like 24, 48 hours. Because I had it today, and it's already like 4 days old, and it's good, but it's just not the same as when you get it like
No, it's just like we have mayo that just drips.
right.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to gross anyone out
No.
there.
Drippy mayo.
Okay, let's finish this up with kind of what your experience has been like at Spyglass and with Lone Wolf compared to what you've had in the past, more as like kind of like a recruitment scenario for other agents. Okay,
Oh, okay.
tell me what your experience has been like, and then I also want to talk about your listing you have right now.
Yeah. So I joined Spyglass Realty just a little over a year ago. I actually interviewed with 7 brokerages before I chose Spyglass. And well, because my first one, I only interviewed at that one. And looking back now, that was a mistake.
I'll be right back.
So I really wanted to do my due diligence this time, and I really thought I had decided on another brokerage, and then I came in and I met with Ryan Rodenbeck, who is the broker at Spyglass Realty, and just was really drawn to him. I liked that I was actually interviewed by the broker himself,
Okay.
and not a recruiter. That he took the time to meet with me. I also met with Johnny and I think Christian. So a couple of different people within the Spyglass organization, and I had already known Christian from my previous brokerage, so it was nice to have a friendly face.
Sure, I can see that.
And so by the end of Ryan's presentation, I was like, oh, shit. I was like, I think I want to go to Spyglass. And I weighed it back and forth like throughout the weekend. And then something about that Monday, I was like, nope, I feel good about this. This is where I want to go. It's a much larger brokerage than I was used to before, and completely different with the way that they run leads and teams and, how you get those leads and everything like that. So it was a bit of adjustment at first. And I will say, I don't know. There was one day we have a weekly huddle every Tuesday, and I really love it because we get all of the agents in the brokerage on the same call. So you're hearing from the listing agents, you're hearing from the buyer's agents, so that everyone is collaborating um, based on what they're hearing what they're hearing and seeing in the market, what they're experiencing with their own clients, and we give each other feedback and positive reinforcement, or hey, have you tried this? If we're struggling to get something right for our clients or find that like perfect deal. So I really love that collaborativeness of it. And one day, usually after the meeting, Johnny will have like open office hours where you can just stay and hop on and talk about anything that you're, wanting extra help on. And so whatever that particular meeting was, I asked a question and Matt hopped in and was like, "Hey, Megan, let me help you." And immediately was like, "Hey, let's get together this afternoon. I'll send you a Google Meet link and I'll walk you through how to do this."
Nice.
And so I just thought that that was so nice and so kind and someone of Matt's like experience and caliber. I was just like, wow, I just joined. Nobody knows me. I've like maybe seen him in the office 3 times. And so we got on a call that afternoon. He walked me through the thing that I had questions on, asked me about my experience in real estate and, where I was excited about, where I felt like I was maybe struggling, where I felt like I maybe needed help as still a newer agent. I'm going on 3 years now. Um, and he said, I have a team. My wife and I run it together, and we're actually looking for someone else to join. And I think that with your experience and what you want to do, that we can help you achieve those things together. And being on Matt's team has been like just amazing for like my confidence, my career. It's just changed everything. So I love that I not only have the big structure of Spyglass,
Yeah.
but I also have my own small team within it with Lone Wolf, and we're very collaborative and very much helping one another at all times. We have a group chat going where people can ask questions, and still to this day, like if I call Matt, he answers. He says, "Let me send you a Google Meet link. Let's hop on it. Let's work through it later." So it's just, night and day from what I had before. I mean, I liked where I worked. I liked my brokerage. I didn't have anything else to compare it to. But now that I do, it's night and day. And you know, I think everyone should at least like give Spyglass a try.
There
And
you go.
especially Matt, because, well, both of you are just so amazing. Like, you're an amazing lender to work with. You're an amazing team lead. You guys both have so much knowledge and experience that you can really like lead and push your agents in the right direction. So I'm very appreciative
Aw.
I
of
know,
that.
right? I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry. Well, that is very sweet to hear. Thank you so much for saying that.
Thank you.
Tell us about your listing though, and then we'll sign off here. We're
Yeah,
gonna get that sucker sold,
I
right?
know.
We need this as a clip.
I'll start the edits today. I'll have it out first thing in the morning tomorrow.
Yeah, so I actually have a really cool listing off of East Riverside.
Wow.
It's a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bathroom condo. It is super cool. The layout is really fun and unique. It has 2 private balconies, which is great because you get to actually see the skyline of Austin and into downtown.
Is it the building where that chick killed that dude?
What?
No, we're not gonna demoralize it like that.
Well, it can't be the one because that would
No,
be the
it's not.
penthouse.
It's not.
No,
Okay.
it's not.
It's right there.
But the best thing about it is its proximity to everything. It is walkable.
It's right by
to-
Emo's, right?
Yeah, so right by Emo's, you can walk to 1618 Asian Fusion.
Ooh, I love that
You
place.
can walk to Lady Bird Lake Hike and Bike Trail.
The Jackalope.
Yep, Jackalope. You're less than 2 miles to Rainy Street, Home Slice, Laundrette. Just everything on that east side, Rainy Street area, it is in
The
perfect.
Bats by the bridge.
Yeah, it's in perfect proximity, and we're really well priced for a lot of the other downtown condos.
Like crazy good price.
Yeah, so
Can we announce some of the information about the price?
We can. You know what's even cooler? We are providing 3% buyer agent compensation on that property.
There you go.
What's the-
PSA.
What's the list price right now?
we're at 475,000.
That's a steal.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that was going for close to double that two
Yeah.
and a half years ago.
And we're just 2 blocks from 35. So,
Wow.
So you don't get super bad road noise, but you have proximity.
yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Well, I know that this wasn't the easiest thing for you to do to come on the podcast, so I'm happy to see that you're on here and glad that you were able to overcome your fear. And so should the rest of you agents that need to put together social media content. Come on here and let us help you out. It took us how long to get Megan on here?
We'll be right back.
Long enough.
Like 6 months.
But again, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Anything else anyone wants to cover?
That's it. Just a closing.
Awesome. Well, I'll have this edited out, and we got to have you on again.
All right. Thanks for having
right,
me.
thanks,
This was
guys.
awesome.